Hi, technicians from Standard Beverages. We're super excited to have you on board with the Draftline Smart System. My name's Jen, and I'm here to give you a quick tutorial on how to use the mobile application. So, a few notes to review first. Number one, you're going to have your startup packet that will have all the contact information, the support at draftlinesmartsystem.com email, our main phone number that you are to contact via text, phone call. We're there to help you maneuver through the mobile application. Any technical questions you have, any survey questions, whatever you need, give us a call at those main numbers. Also, when downloading the mobile application from either the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, we need you to allow Draftline access to your location services, and that will allow the GPS and mapping functions to work for you. Keep in mind that the faucet surveys, which some people call brand surveys, tap surveys, whatever we refer to them as, those need to be done every single time you go into an account. Angie and Jesse are going to be very focused on making sure that information's correct, so help us out and make sure you always keep that up. The first 2 weeks is the most difficult because it's a lot of data to enter, but I do promise after that your data input drops by 85 to 90%. It does get a lot easier. That being said, very large accounts that are 20 taps or over, we allow you to take photos and send those in. You can also send beer menus. You can also send a handwritten list. The photos must be clear, close to the faucets, so we can read all of the tap handles. If not, it instigates a lot of back and forth conversation to figure out what actually was in that account. So also with those photos, you have to indicate to us which brands that you cleaned. It usually takes 24 hours to process those. That's mostly for the startup phase. After the first cycle, the changes will need to be made in the mobile application. We'll go over that in the demo that we're going to do. Another tried and true Draftline rule is I want you to work on the current date scheduled. Basically, if you need to deviate from whatever your mobile application says right here, as you see, this is my route for today, we need you to let us know. We need you to either text support, call support, email support, and say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to run this instead of what is normally scheduled. Also indicate if that is a one-time or a permanent change. One-time changes don't affect the repeat moving forward. Permanent changes affect your routing schedule moving forward. Keep that in mind. Any permanent changes, we will have to go back to your draft managers and ask if that's okay, because it's not necessarily up to us. So just keep that in mind that your draft managers are going to be fully engaged on the notes, the changes, any routing changes. And that being said, also make sure you have your route change form from your startup packet. So when we kick it off today, you will have the startup packet with all of your login information, route change form, the resources page, and from there we just need to make sure that you're entering those faucets and verifying the items that you have serviced when you're at the account. So all of that being said, always work on day. Let us know if any changes need to be made, and we'll make those for you on the fly, usually within 10 minutes or less on startup. Never, ever, ever work outside of a calendar week. Those are our Draftline tried and true rules. So here I'm already logged into my mobile application, and let's kick into what a line cleaning looks like. I will go into the Town Pump Tavern and I will tap on that section. This will bring me to the overview page. For the overview page, we have a Google generated photo up at the top. You can get directed, and I'm in Orlando, but you will see this says it's 952 miles away because this is in Detroit, and this actually was one of our line cleaning accounts when I was managing up there. So May 4th is the date that the line cleaning is scheduled from 10 to 11. Understand that you are not locked into performing the service at that particular time. That is a suggested time, and we can modify these. So line cleaning trip, Town Pump Tavern, that's just the trip title. And as we move further into Draftline, after you get through your first, usually 4 weeks, so that would be two full cycles, we then sometimes move into using service. But I think most of you are dedicated line cleaners, so most of your trip titles will say line cleaning. Under that, if we have entered the phone number, we can swipe to call the account. And then you will see all the technicians assigned to this trip. I think in all instances for Standard Beverages, it's one technician. This little alien icon to the right of my name over here, that just means I'm the foreman and I'm responsible for the checkout options. So for Draftline, we set all of our trips into statuses when we check out, when you're the foreman. So completed, partially completed, no work performed. Those are important. Those help us filter. Every time you check into a trip, you have to check out and set a status unless you're not the foreman, and we'll cover that as we move forward. So I am on iOS, so I will navigate from the bottom of the screen, left to right, as with all things draft. If you were on Android, you would navigate from the top of the screen. So I will click into the tasks. So right here up at the top left, you see your safety first guidelines. I always ask all of my line cleaners, please, 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 gloves and goggles, and definitely pH paper if you can. At the bottom right with the green circle, the first thing you do when you arrive on site, before you take the supplies out of your vehicle to clean, before you go into the building, that's when you check in. So click on this green circle with the arrow. That turns blue. That starts your timer ticking on the trip. The reason we want you to check in when you first arrive and check out after you've loaded everything up on your vehicle when you're finished is because we want to show the maximum amount of service time not only to our supervisors, but if we transition into using our real-time reporting that auto triggers to our customers, excuse me, we want to make sure that we have a very good time accounting and that they never see a 1 minute service time. They don't like that. So now that we're checked in, we're most likely going to put our device into our pocket or into our basket. We take everything in to do our line cleaning, hook up the chemical, get that pumping through the lines, break down the faucets, and then when we're pretty much finished, that's when I would do the survey. It doesn't matter if you do it at the beginning or the end. And in the early days, you'll want to look at the system page, where we will get to in a minute, and make sure that the system information is matching. Because when you arrive, if you give us a heads up on what is here, so for instance, if you don't have enough faucets and say you need 8 more, it's a perfect time at the beginning of the service to text support and say, hey, this is Jen from Standard Beverages. I need to have 12 faucets on Tower 1, not 4. Can you fix this? We go in, look at it, create the new faucets, and say, please refresh your screen. And you do that by pulling down on the screen, and you would see those extra faucets appear. So keep that in mind. In the beginning, you're going to want to look and make sure you have enough placeholders, basically, to enter everything. But back to the tasks page. So once we've checked in, once we've got the service in play, we're then going to go to our line cleaning bubble. We're going to click on that gray bubble. This will bring us to the type of system. We click on the bar, and then we will see all the possible options for line cleaning. First 4 steps is always, always, always regular maintenance. Every line cleaning you perform, that first box will be ticked. Now, mostly you're going to do a static cleaning. So every time you input regular maintenance and static, you have to send those options back to the dashboard. And we do that simply by clicking this green circle with the check mark. So I click that and it kicks me back to my task page. And so it says line cleaning partially completed. Partially completed is a visual indicator for you, just so you don't have to go click back through the screen. So let me click on the gray bubble again, and that's fine. That's as it should be. Regular maintenance, say you actually did a recirculation cleaning, you would then click regular maintenance and recirc. Bottom right, again, send those check marks back by clicking the circle with the green check mark. And that's it. That simple. So then we're going to go into the faucets. This is going to be a little bit more complicated, and I have one brand name down at the bottom to show you what this is going to look like. But up at the top, all of the following are completed, which is basically we disassembled the faucets, soaked them, made sure we put them back together in good working order. Now, at the bottom of the screen, on the first dates of service, you see Tower 1 with Faucet 1 and Faucet 2. All of your faucets will be empty. We're going to go through the process of populating those through this. Now, when you're doing the verification on this page, so this is your faucet tasks. Everything is bartender view left to right. So for tower one, we only have two faucets. So if I'm the bartender, I stand in front of the tower. Did I clean faucet one, which is the one to my far left? Did I clean faucet two? In this instance, I'm going to say that I did. And of course, Budweiser is not one of our brands, so we're not going to service that. Now, once we go to the next page, we're going to populate the brands. There is a little bit of delay to see that. But on this page, what I want you to keep in mind is you're just going by that numeric faucet value. So 1, 2. Tower 2 is number 1. Bartender view left to right always. And this is how we know how many faucets that you serviced in a day. So just keep that in mind. This is contributing to the amount of lines you actually cleaned, and we always want to make sure that we're counting correctly. So at the bottom right again, because we've had selections on this page, we have to send them back to the server. Circle with the check mark. Click that, it sends it back to the server, and that saves. And again, as a distributor, you're always going to have partially completed under these two boxes, and that's to be expected. So those are our tasks. We're finished with those. We verified what type of service we've run and also which faucets we have cleaned. We're now going to move on to the second phase, notes. And this is just above your home screen if you're on iOS. Here we can write notes. We always require a note for trips that we consider no work performed. No work performed is 5 to 7% of trips for any given service center when you show up as a technician to do your job, but for whatever reason you got turned away. So a very common issue is too busy for lunch. Again, we're inputting a note. We need to send it with the blue paper airplane. You should see that instantaneously. Something I want you to keep in mind is that when we have our brewery compliance reports, these notes are incredibly helpful to us. If we ever have an issue or if we're ever audited by one of our breweries and they say, why wasn't this cleaned? We need to have a note in there. And there's always going to be a certain subset of accounts, so just keep that in mind. We need to document. Every time you have a no work performed trip where you got refused for service, you need to input a note. Also photos. And I'm going to take a photo. Right here I have an example of a cooler sticker. We'll click that, use photo. And again, blue paper airplane. Every time you send something, you should get a pop-up right there. Upload completed. The image was successfully uploaded. I love to have photos of cooler stickers. We'll talk about it in the startup meeting if that's something that's important to standard. So notes. I don't like to have too much brand information in this section, but if you want to add something, that's fine. And this is also a good place to add photos if you have those Monster accounts. Also beer menus for, again, Monster accounts only, 20 taps and up. That's fine to add here. And it attaches it directly to the trip on the dashboard side for us, so it makes it very convenient. Okay, so now let's go to the system page. Here on the system page, there is a glycol system with a main bar with two towers. Tower 1 has 4 faucets. Tower 2 has 1. Now, what we want to do when we go into this account is we want to make sure we are accounting for all the brands. On your first date of service, you would see no brands under faucet 3, 4, and 1. So keep that in mind. The way we go through and enter brands is we slide across, if I could talk, slide across on faucet 1, and the pencil pops up. We click on the pencil, and there's nothing in there right now. So we're going to enter something from our brand menu. So for you guys, let's say Corona. And you will see there's a smart search function. You type in the first 3 letters and you should have brands, especially if they're your brands, that pop up. So I will click on Corona, and then at the next, bottom right, next, and then for the distributor, we're going to put standard. Standard Beverages, next. This is how a faucet change request should look. Now, when you enter this, this will go to the dashboard. In the startup phase, there is a delay because people are vetting all of this information to make sure it's coming in correctly. So just know you've entered it here, but you won't see it immediately. So we're going to click OK. That will send it off. And again, you'll get a request send successful message. So just keep that in mind. Now, On faucet 2, let's slide across and enter something. Let's say it's some crazy brand, we'll call it Easter Egg. And it's not in our drop down menu. And you're going to have this happen with multiple types of craft brands that you're not familiar with. So when that happens, you recognize the brand name, but you have no clue who the distributor is. That goes into the independent category. Okay, so you just click on independent, next, and again, you're off and running. So keep in mind, always track the brand name. If you're unsure of the distributor, put in independent. We'll click OK. Another common thing that you will see, and I'll use this on the add faucet function. So if we go to add a faucet to this tower, and you could do this on tower 2 as well. If we swipe across on tower 1 and click this plus sign, this will add a faucet number 5. So it will always add to the far right. And let's say, for instance, that there is a tap or a faucet on that numeric value, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's open. There's no beer pouring in it. We are going to put open. Oops, if I could spell. There we go. So keep that in mind. We want to track even the faucets that are there that aren't necessarily pouring beer at this exact moment in time, and that's okay. Of course, there would be no distributor because there's no beer on that particular faucet. You click OK, and again, you get the pop-up and you're off and running. Now, let's go down to faucet 3. Faucet 3 right now says it's Corona, but let's say it's changed to Modelo. Let's swipe across, and this is what you would see actually, sorry about that, on your next date of service. So where the faucets are empty right now, those will all begin to update, and you'll see that happen. On the second date of service, everything will save. You will see the brand information, and then you only have to make changes on the ones that have flipped to a different brand. So we're going to pretend that's happened with faucet number 3. For this one, we'll say it's changed to Modelo. Now this one would be also updated in your brand dropdown. This is Ghost Service Center I'm testing on. And again, Modelo belongs to your Service Center standard. So we would click OK. So just keep that in mind. And let's say this one flipped to Corona. We'll click there, next, and again, standard. So all of your competitive distributors will start to pop up. We may not have them all in your drop-down menus immediately, but you can do freehand typing in and saving. So just keep that in mind. So every single time we go in, we have to update this information. Bartender view left to right. And again, Angie and Jesse are going to be looking for this. So just keep in mind, this is something moving forward that we have to do. So that being said, last thing we do is we go to the expenses tab. We click on the pencil. And we're going to input the name of the person signing for the service. Okay, so this is the name of the customer at your on-premise account. We're going to click Success, and at the very bottom of the screen, we grab the signature. Up at the top left, we click Done. And again, wait for the pop-up. You're going to see it there. Everything we have just entered on this trip is going to save back to the trip on the dashboard as a time capsule. And so we can search it. We'll have the history forever. And of course, it will reside and stay there just as is until the next trip happens, which becomes another little time capsule that we can send and save on reporting and all different sorts of things. So good information in is very helpful to us, and just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, come back and ask us. So we've made it all the way to the right side of the screen. We are going to go back to the tasks page, and here the last thing to do is check out. And we'll go over our checkout options, which we discussed earlier. So once we've loaded everything back up on our vehicle, or we're ready to walk to our next stop, that's when I want you to come back to the task page. We're going to click on the blue circle. That will bring up our checkout options. One thing I want you to keep in mind, you always have to set a trip status. Anything that has, any trip I should say, that has check marks, brands, Those things don't get sent to the dashboard unless we click a checkout option. So keep that in mind. This one, we're going to set as completed status, but completed is obviously you came, you saw, you did everything that you were supposed to do. Partially completed, we never use in line cleaning because we never leave chemical or anything in the line. We always make sure that when we show up, we do what we're supposed to do. No work performed. No work performed is 5 to 7% of trips for any service center where the technician showed up to do their job, but for whatever reason they got turned away. Too busy for lunch, like we discussed. No beer, no gas, nobody home. Any of those instances, I want to make sure that you put in a note, especially if you were there to do the service and do your job, because those help us with our real-time compliance reports. So for this one, I'm going to click completed. And then up at the top left, the trips back button, I want to go back to my trips page. You will see the status of this trip update. The goal is at the end of the day to have all of our trips in this completed green status with this green circle with a check mark. Of course, it doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. And I want to show you quickly by checking into National Coney what the other statuses look like. Say I got to National Coney, they refused the service because they were too busy for lunch. And keep in mind, we still want to go back later. So I'm going to mark that one as no work performed. Go back to the trips page and I want you to see what the color coding looks like here. You see the green circle with the 3 dots? Every time you go into an account, especially if it's multiple times a day, I want you to set all of those check-in and check-outs. Okay, so we want to record those because this way we can show our customers all the services that we're providing to them and all the time we invest in them as our customers. So I'm going to click on National Coney again. I'm going to check in. Quickly, I'm going to go through my line cleaning checklist, and this is just an example. Up at the top, all the following are completed. Let's say I cleaned faucet number 2. I'm going to send that. I'm going to go to the system page, and faucet number 2 is open. I will slide across, and I will put one of our brands in. And again, you'll have to back out the brand every time it changes. So I will say again, Corona. Click on that, next, and this will be one of our brands, so I will say standard, next, and again I will click OK. That I will get the pop-up, and so that's all I need to do. I'll grab my signature again, success, up at the top right I'll click done, and then I am going to check out and mark that this is completed. So now, keep in mind that this will update and it will go from that black circle to a green circle with a check mark. So we want to track all the steps throughout the day, all the time we're investing in making sure our customers are serving the best possible quality product, especially for our brands. And at the end of the day, the goal is to have all of these trips completed. So you will be getting some communication from us. Make sure that you program the support phone number. We'll be in touch, and it's going to be a very busy week starting on the 14th, but we really look forward to working with all you guys. Take care and good luck. Bye-bye.